Hi there, my name is Christine Carnaffin. I am a demonstrator with Stampin' Up. And have you ever seen a magic card? Looks like that. So I am going to show you how to make this. Sorry, there we go. So it fits in this way. This is what I've taught myself how to do this week. I watched a video by Gloria Kramer, who is a demonstrator, Stampin' Up demonstrator in, I think she's in Southern Ontario. And she was demonstrating this technique, and I just had to try it. It's so cool. So to do it, I'm using the Paper Pumpkin kit from April 2021. It is called So Cool, and it is very cool. So that's the stamps I'm using. For the technique the way I'm showing it, you need to use clear stamps, otherwise you're going to end up with a wee bit of a nightmare. So, but I will do another video showing you how to do this with the red rubber stamps. But you need one more piece of equipment to really make it work, and you'll see why when I get started here. So I'm just using sticky notes to fold down my frame and hold it steady. So I don't want to get ink all over the place. All right, so we are starting off by using just black water-based ink, our regular Memento black. And I'm using the watermelon stamp. And I'm going to put my glasses on so I can see what I'm doing. I'm just adding a few watermelons to this. Doesn't look interesting yet, but I promise it will. So I'm going to keep that stamp handy because I'm going to need it again, but I'm just going to finish stamping the inside of the image while I'm at it. So I'm using Old Olive, and the stamp set comes with a fun little splotch, and I do love a splotch. So the key when using splotches is to move your stamp around so that it doesn't look like as repetitive. It'll look a little bit less intentional if you move it around and it's not the same every time. So that's that. And that is it for the colored stamping. Now, we're going to build the first part of our card now. So, the way to make this card, you need to use a piece of window sheet or acetate, and you can't really use liquid glue with that because it's not porous, so the glue won't dry and it'll just continually shift around on you, which is not what you want. This isn't going to be particularly pretty, but we are going to be closing this, so it doesn't really matter if it's not pretty at this point. So this card, it's not complicated to make these cards. It's just requires quite a few steps. So tear tape gets its name from the fact that you can tear it so easily. It is super strong, and it's just double-sided tape though. If you have, I did not want to get my sweater in that. If you don't have long nails, you can just use a pick type tool to take the layers apart there. So I've trimmed my acetate or window sheet to 5 and 5 by 4. And the dimensions of this card, I've used thick white cardstock for my base, and it is 10.5 in length and 4 1/4, scored at 5 1/4. And that is a little shorter than a usual card, but when I made this one, I realized that with this pull, it won't fit in an envelope. So my point was to make it just a little bit shorter so that I'll be able to put this in an envelope. So now we've got our window. I'm going to put the sticky notes back on. And I want this super, super, super flat because I am going to be stamping right on the acetate. So I need it not to move around on me. And it's not quite as flat as I'd like it, but we shall make it work. So for this step, I'm using StazOn ink, which is not water-based. It is permanent ink. It comes with this little plasticky doodad. Just set that aside. You want to put it back on before you put it away. Ooh, it smells like almonds. I don't know why. I don't know what this stuff's made of. All I know is it's non-water-based. So excuse the top of my head, but I need to line this up perfectly or it won't work. So you have to resist the urge to press hard on this or it will smudge. I'm off. Oh well. Hopefully it won't matter. So this is why you need to use clear stamps for this method, to make sure you are stamping exactly on top of your image for it to work. So put my ink away. Now StazOn ink does stain the rubber stamps, but that's okay. It is clean, it's just stained. So it won't mix with anything else. It's just not coming off. There is StazOn cleaner that you can buy to take off some of that ink, but yeah, doesn't matter. All right, so we're done with our sticky notes. We'll decorate the outside of the card once I am done. And I should point out too that I cut this rectangle out in my card base as well as the frame with my rectangle dies. So it just makes it easy. So you can see that one of my lines is off. I'm hoping that won't matter. We shall proceed. Okay, so I'm going to use my Stampin' Blends to color the image. You could use watercolor pencils, you could use any medium you want to color this in. It's just a matter, you really want to add some color to the inside for this to have its full effect. So the cool thing about these markers is that they come in a 2-pack, a light and a dark color, or shade I should say, and you can blend them together to kind of have different effects and more depth. So I'm actually going to do that with the red, but I'm not bothering with the peel. Yes. I was going to say shell, but that didn't sound right. Oh, I'm so looking forward to summer. That's what this paper pumpkin kit makes me think of. It's all ice cream and well, no ice cream, but popsicles and watermelon and rainbows. All right, so I'll show you what I mean with the blending. So the tip if you want to blend colors is to try to blend them while they're still wet. So I'm using the dark Poppy Parade here, but I'm not going to do like all 3 of them with the dark shade. I'm just going to put the dark where I want it, and put a little bit up here too. And then I'm going to move in with my light shade. And I'm going to saturate that as much as I can to blend those lines. If you're not quick enough with it, you end up with kind of a sharp line, which is not what anyone wants. So there we go. So I don't know if you can kind of see the blended effect. So the key is just to do this while it's wet. I posted a photo recently. I've been coloring designer series paper with my Stampin' Blends. Oh my god, so pretty. So on the thick paper, on the thick white, or even just the regular white, I don't find that the markers bleed that much. You still have to be cautious, but not as much. The designer series paper, it does bleed because it's a thinner paper. So you just got to be mindful not to go right to the edge. And you can always go back if it doesn't bleed out enough. You may notice I've got my white marker there too. It's not actually white, it's a color lifter. So if you make mistakes, you can just go over. You'll still see, like if you're using red, for instance, you'll still see some pink, but if you're using the greens or most other colors, it will just magically disappear it. So I like to keep it close, just in case. Go. And I did make one little yuck on the green. I'm going to try to lift this and go back over it with the green. Can you see that? Over here? Just lifted right off. So I'm just going to go over that really gently with some green. There, no one will know. Done. Okay, so we've got our collaring done. That'll be on the inside. So now we've got to make a track for our other doodad to run off of. So again, this is acetate, so I'm going to use my tear tape. Now for this, I want to go closer to the edge because I want to leave enough room for my track, for the inside piece, sorry, to run along my track. So if I glue those pieces too close in, it won't have room to move, which defeats the purpose. So I'm kind of just going on the edge of my acetate for this. So we're not putting a strip here. I learned that lesson the hard way. Don't do it. So I've cut these little track pieces. They're 1/2 inch wide, and I believe they are 5 inches long. So again, this does not need to be pretty at this point because it's going to be covered up. And I'm pushing the end one really to the edge so that I have enough room for my slider piece. Now for the next layer, it's going on top of paper, so I'm just going to use a little bit of liquid glue. I'm being careful not to put too much though, because I don't want it to squish out and interfere with my slider. So I'm just layering those pieces up. Sure I don't have rogue glue. Okay, so now this is our slider piece. So before I put the card together, I need to put a stopper so that you're not going to pull it right out when you open it. So I think this guy's going to need a little trim too. So I'm going to put that stopper right to the edge. I just wanted to make sure that it was going to fit in my track. If it doesn't, then that's not going to slide too good. So I want this to be the outside, and I want that to be there. So I don't want to risk gushing glue or extra sticky bits, so I'm just going to use my tear tape. Put a strip right on the end. And we're going to glue this, so I'm just going to have a teeny bit hanging out on both sides. I'm just going to angle that so I can see what I'm doing here. It's not 100% equal, but you can see that there's just a little notch here and a little notch there. So that's going to stop the person from yanking it right out of the card. All right, I may not need to trim that. Okay, what I do need to trim is I may need to make a hole for this. And what I'm gonna do is use a pencil. This is gonna be closed, so no one's gonna be able to see it. So I want this to be straight. There. All right. So I've notched 2 little pencil marks where I want to make my cuts. So I'm just lining up the score line with the cutting line. So I'm making sure my blade is inside the cutting area, not on the other side. And sorry, I'm going right over top of this right now because I really need to see where I am cutting. Okay, I think I've got it. Let's see here. Yeah. So, I'm just going to test it out. And it works. Hooray. So, here we go. So, you can see this bottom melon doesn't 100% line up, but close enough. All right. I love this. Okay, I'm gonna keep going. Sorry, I get distracted. We are gonna cover this up. When you use the alcohol markers, it bleeds through the paper, but that is a-okay. I have a plan. All right. So now, to finish up the inside, we're just gonna stick this down. Nothing complicated there. Again, I don't wanna risk unnecessary glue incidents, so I'm just going to use the tear tape. Yeah, that'll be fine. Actually, yeah. I'm going to bring it right to the edge just so that I don't have like big gaps or anything happening. All right, So peel those. Little tip too, if you just smooth out the tear tape right to the end, it's a lot easier to peel the top off as I fight with it. Totally usually works, honest. Except when you say it out loud in a video, then yeah, all bets are off, right? All right. So I'm just gonna make sure this worked. And it did. So I do need to put a tab on this, otherwise it's not gonna work right. And I really shouldn't have pushed that in. Okay, there we go. So I'm not gonna push it in again until it's got a tab. Before I do the tab, I'm just gonna put the back of the card on. So that's just a piece of regular white paper, because I wanna hide that. And this will give us a nice writing surface. You could also stamp this piece if you wanted to as well. If you really wanted to as well, you could take this and mount it onto a card, like a regular card base that opens. But I don't want to add a ton of weight to this. And we're going to decorate the front too, so there we go. So let's do our pull thingy now. So I'm using the Lovely Labels punch to make my label. And I'm also just going to score this at the midpoint to make it easier to have a nice fold on it. I swear when I'm making a project, my desk gets smaller as the project goes on. Alright, so it is the score blade that we want, not the cutting blade. So I've just made a little score line on that. I don't know if you can see. And then I'm going to use tear tape on that as well. So the key with the tab is to put it on in such a way that it won't be too far so that it's poking out, but that it won't be sticking up so much that you can't close the card. I mean, fit this in an envelope, which I'm a little worried about at this point. We'll take our chances. There we go. Now I don't have to worry about losing that bit. So hopefully that's not sticking out too much. Bleep, bloop. All right, so now we're gonna decorate it. Sorry, got carried away. All right, so I've already cut, another tip is I ran, excuse me, my card base and my designer series paper into the machine with the die on top together so that it made an impression, which is why there's a little bit of color here. It made an impression where I could then put my die on the card base, and these two line up beautifully. So I was running them through separately, and I have to say there were some struggles. So that is the tip I picked up for the die. And I had one of those, why didn't I think of this sooner moments? All right. So that lined up beautifully. So what else shall we do to the front of this card? I've got my sentiment. Which is obviously way too big. So I'm just going to trim that down. Somewhat straight. All right, then I'm going to notch this because I think it'll be fun. So kind of like a pennant. So I'm eyeballing this, but I'm putting a little line kind of in the center, hopefully in the center. And I'm just going to use my snips. I'm going to go right from the corner to that dot. And same on the other side. And it's okay if it's not like totally perfect, because that just adds a little more interest in my view. So I can see a teeny bit of pencil here, so I'm just gonna get rid of it. There we go. So we've got a happy birthday. Now the other super cool thing with this month's Paper Pumpkin kit is it comes with a sheet of stickers. Look at these, aren't they cute? So I'm going to grab my sunshine and I'm going to put it up here. And it's okay if it covers the watermelons a bit. So that's our sun, and there's a gorgeous watermelon here. I'm going to add that too. I'm going to cover up here, we'll put the watermelon first. And we'll put this. I'm going to put this on dimensionals to pop it up. Excuse my reach. Dimensionals are double-sided pieces of foam, and they just pop things up a bit. And lastly, I want to add a bit of bling to this. I am going to open my card before I start adding too much bling to it though. And the reason for that is I want to make sure that I'm not covering up what's on the inside. Remember I added those splotches? So I'm opening it. So I still want the bling to complement what's on the inside. So these are the Artistry Blooms sequins, and they are already sticky, which is super fun. We've got some blue, some kind of orange, it's a really cool kind of purple color, and yellow. Specifically, it's Mango Melody, Coastal Cabana, Calypso Coral, and Rich Razzleberry. So I like the idea of using those two, not so much these two, for this one. So where shall we put our bling? Maybe one here. And they come in 2 sizes. Yeah, it's so awesome that they're already sticky. It just makes it so much easier. And maybe up here. Ah, that's way too close. I'll have to deglue that. Sorry, this is like the hardest part for me, is to figure out where I'm putting my stuff. I don't know why it's so hard, but it is. All right, so this is what it looks like close. So it's just got a little bit of bling. I could add more if you wanted to as well. Just want to make sure I don't have too much glare going on. And then when you open it, how cool is that? So just send me a message or write in the comments if you want me to put kind of the more detailed instructions, like all the dimensions, because you saw it's not that hard to do. It's just a matter of a lot of steps. So super cute, really fun. One more. Ah, love it. So even this image doesn't line up 100%, but it still looks okay, I think. Just want to shoot. Anyway, okay, I'll stop now. Thank you so much for watching, and please let me know if you have any questions and what you thought of the video. Thanks.